Call Andrew Mitchell to ask his urgent question. Andrew Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for granting this urgent question. Can I ask the Minister if he will make a statement on the reduction in overseas development assistance?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the right honourable gentleman for his question. The pandemic has resulted in the biggest drop in UK economic output in 300 years. And it has had a major impact on public finances. The deficit this year is projected to be double its peak during the financial crisis. That's why we had to take the tough, but I can assure him temporary, decision at the end of last year to reduce the official development assistance target from 0.7% of GNI to 0.5%. In spite of this, the UK will spend £10 billion on aid in 2021, making us the third largest donor in the G7 as a percentage of our gross national income. Not only that, but we will also be the third largest bilateral humanitarian donor, spending at least £906 million this year. And we will invest at least £400 million bilaterally on girls' education in over 25 countries. We will deliver £534 million of bilateral spend on climate and biodiversity, a doubling of the average spend between 2016 and 2020. We have committed £548 million to COVAX to provide vaccines for poorer countries, and we are multiplying our impact by integrating our aid spend with our diplomatic network, our science and technology expertise, and our economic partnerships. This government's commitment to the UK being a leader in development has not changed. The integrated review reaffirmed our pledge to fight against global poverty and to achieve the UN Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. And we reiterate our commitment to return to 0.7% when the fiscal situation allows. This week's new allocations show that we are following through with the vision that the Prime Minister set out in the integrated review. The way the UK applies our world-leading investment and our expertise must be strategic, in line with the approach defined by the integrated review. It must represent best value for taxpayers' money, and it must deliver results by tackling poverty and improving people's lives around the world. To achieve this, the FCDO has conducted a thorough review of aid spending to ensure that we target every penny at the highest priority global challenges. The Foreign Secretary's written statement to the House last week set out how this has sharpened the focus of the FCDO's aid portfolio behind 7 strategic priorities for poverty reduction. These are climate and biodiversity, COVID-19 and global health security, girls' education, humanitarian preparedness and response, science and technology, open societies and conflict resolution, and finally economic development and trade. We believe that this plan will deliver the greatest impact where it matters most.
Andrew Mitchell.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. When Germany will now exceed the 0.7 target, when France is now pledged to hit it, and the US is increasing aid spending by $15 billion, why is Britain, chair of the G7, breaking its promises to the poorest and the election manifesto commitment on which we were all elected, and which this country previously has so proudly upheld? Does the government understand that the aid cut to Syria undermines our key ally in the Middle East, Jordan, and will increase the flow of refugees into Europe? Does the government realise that sending 300 troops to Mali while cutting humanitarian aid to the Sahel is a failure of understanding and puts our troops at greater risk? Why is the government derailing our Prime Minister's pledge on girls' education, with cuts that will result in 4 million fewer girls going to school, while Britain is simultaneously hosting an international replenishment conference asking others to fund this key British objective? Madam Deputy Speaker, the 0.7 is not just a commitment to the world's poorest, enshrined in law by this House. It is a reflection of the kind of country we aspire to be and the values which we uphold. 95% of Red Wall voters approve of life-saving humanitarian aid, but that is exactly what the Treasury is cutting in their name. We are cutting £500 million in humanitarian aid. This will mean that 3 million women and children will not now receive life-saving support. Madam Deputy Speaker, is it not clear that the original estimate of 100,000 souls who will die as a result is now a tragic understatement? This dreadful political, not economic, decision shames our country and our government. Madam Deputy Speaker, it should shame us all.
Minister.
Madam Deputy Speaker, I completely understand the passion with which my right honourable friend speaks, but the simple truth is that the UK economy is 11.3% smaller than it was last year and is undergoing the worst economic contraction for 300 years. The coronavirus has set in place a unique set of circumstances to which we are forced to respond. And yet, despite these difficulties, despite this economic impact, the UK will remain, in both absolute terms and percentage terms, one of the largest ODA donor countries in the world, and will remain the third largest ODA donor in the G7. He speaks of the areas where the UK wishes to be a force for good in the world, and we are still committed. We are absolutely committed to make sure that we use our ODA spend in the areas like girls' education, the environment and climate and others, but with our diplomatic efforts as part of the joint Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office as a force multiplier to ensure that the money we spend is amplified by our diplomatic efforts, both bilaterally and on the world stage. And I will remind him that when the fiscal circumstances allow, we are committed to returning to the 0.7% of GNI, which he, others, and indeed this government is so rightly proud.
We now go